and share this safe and welcoming space with all you amazing women. And I'd like to thank Sharon and her team for organising tonight's event and for all the fantastic work that Compassionate Voices does for women and girls across our communities. So I was asked to talk a little bit about myself and a lot about the empowerment of women, and they are my favourite subjects. So tonight, no men in the audience. I'm going to be unapologetically and unashamedly banging the drum for women and girls in all our different shapes, sizes, colours and guises. There's a famous quote that goes, give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you'll feed him for a lifetime. So I would change that to give a woman a fish and everybody gets a bite. Teach a woman to fish and she'll make sure that everybody else learns too. The world, excuse me, probably should help her, isn't it? The world is full of ordinary women living extraordinary lives. We are carers, we volunteer in our communities, we teach, we nurture, we run businesses, we take up professions, we organise and we create things. Women make actual people from their bodies. And even if we haven't given birth ourselves, we are the sisters, aunties, godmothers, guardians, stepmums, foster mums and adoptive mums. It takes a village to raise a child, a village of extraordinary, ordinary women. I bet every single one of us here tonight can think of at least one woman who mentored and guided them and served her community, left the world a better place than she found it. I've been very lucky to have been influenced by many extraordinary women in my life, and I've often spoken about two in particular, who led by example and left the world a better place. Oh dear. So, first lady I'd like to talk about is my nan, and her name was Evelyn Carter. And she fostered me and my two sisters from when we were at a very young age. I was just 4 years old. My elder sister was 7 and my younger sister was just a baby. And despite struggling with acute anxiety and severe depression, Evelyn raised us well. She kept us safe, she taught us right from wrong, and she never once asked for anything in return. And despite being less than 4.5 feet tall, Evelyn was an absolute firebrand. And being from a broken home in the 1960s, as they used to call it, was considered a huge stigma in those days. So Evelyn took on a school system that discriminated against us, and she stood up to women twice her size in the playground on our behalf. She wasn't physically demonstrative, she didn't really kiss or hug us, it wasn't her way. But she rejoiced in every good thing that happened to us, however small, and we always knew she loved us. I still miss being able to run to Evelyn and tell her whenever nice things happen to me. And when I feel nervous in my daily life, like now, I think of my nan and how for her, at times, just getting up and out of bed in the morning was an act of absolute bravery. Another extraordinary woman I've been lucky to have known was called Daphne Hayes. She was my mother-in-law. Daphne became pregnant with my husband in the 1950s, when having a baby out of wedlock was considered a huge stigma. She ignored family pressure to give up her baby to adoption, and instead she chose to leave her family home and relocate to a city 150 miles away on her own. It was a huge step for a single woman in those days, and it would have taken massive levels of determination to keep on that path. My husband had a near idyllic childhood thanks to Daphne. Daphne wore a wedding ring all her life, but she never married. Thanks to women like Evelyn and Daphne, people from unconventional families no longer have to live a life of stigma. Oops. ordinary women who left the world a better place than they found it. So I became involved in politics from a very young age, and I've been a lifelong trade unionist and have served my chosen political party at all levels. And I've always been passionate about ending inequality and keen to help people and communities thrive. Until this year, until May this year, I was the county councillor for Staveley. Is anybody here from Staveley? 2 over there, 3 over there, 4 over there. Shout out, Staveley massive. Staveley was once one of the most thriving districts in Chesterfield, but it's never really recovered from the loss of its mining industry. It still has huge levels of unemployment and areas of deprivation. But oh my goodness, Staveley is full to the brim of strong, no-nonsense women who graft hard and get stuff done because they have had to. Staveley's women are the glue that keep communities together. They serve their communities as unpaid carers, volunteers, litter pickers, home helps and so on. And I'd like to pay tribute here today to a couple in the audience who are very, very dear to me. Sandra Bagshaw. Sandra served her beloved Poolsbrook as a parish councillor and is now the literal linchpin of that village. And also Tina Harris-Horner. Tina over there. Tina runs the Hollies and has done so much to serve the people in Ingersoll. If you want to know anything about anybody in Staveley or anything about Staveley, ask either of those 2 women. I learned so much from the women of Staveley. Not all of it easy to swallow, it must be said, but everything well meant and honestly put. And whilst I sadly won't be there to see it through, I'm confident that the area is on the rise, and it's thanks to women like Sandra and Tina. 10 years ago, Jo Cox, the then MP for Batley and Spen, made her first speech in the House of Commons, and it turned out to be, one of the most influential maiden speeches ever made. Famously, Jo spoke about UK communities and how they'd been affected by immigration. She said that what surprised her most as she walked around her constituency was that ordinary people of all colours and faiths had far more in common with each other than the things that divide them. Jo's speech emphasised that even taking into account different people's diversity, when you get down to brass tacks, people are a lot more alike than they are different. We all want a safe home, to live in peace, to have food on the table, to keep warm, and for our kids to grow up to live fulfilled and happy lives. Although I've lived in Derbyshire now for nearly 40 years, I was born over the border in Sheffield, and I was raised in an area called Pitsmoor. Pitsmoor was, and possibly still is, one of the most multicultural parts of that very diverse city. Pitsmoor is where most of the Windrush generation settled after they came to Sheffield, and it attracted immigrants from all over the world to work in the Northern General Hospital and the numerous steel factories nearby. My school friends included people from the Caribbean, Africa, India, Pakistan, China, you name it. And Pitsmoor's fulcrum of white people included students from all over Eastern and Western Europe and Ireland. In fact, I can trace my own ancestors back in the city to the 1840s when my great-grandparents, I should say, left Ireland and came to England to escape the famine. And playing outside in Pitsmoor as a kid, my senses were treated to the sights, sounds, smells of a multitude of different ethnicities. Immigrant homes were painted bright colours. Cooking smelled of unfamiliar spices. It was way before curry became a British staple. And people wore a variety of national dress. Bhangra music, reggae and salsa, strolled out from Open Doors alongside David Bowie, T-Rex and The Sweet. And if you don't know who they are, you're under the age of 45, ask your mum and dad. And I would say that I learned as much from the cultural backgrounds of my school friends as I ever did during my lessons. My current role is at the University of Sheffield, where I manage a project that is based in rural India. In simple terms, our project aims to set up markets in India that are run and maintained by women for women. The Hindi term for these markets is Didi Hearts, where Didi means older sister or wise woman, and heart means market. We've just finished our first Didi Heart with a fantastic opening ceremony that was attended by representatives of the Indian government. These markets don't only provide a safe space for women to shop, but they provide women sellers with a safe space to sell their goods, helping them to make a living and stay independent. We also encourage the sale of healthy foods and provide education to help women ensure that their children receive the nutrition that they need. This is particularly important in India because nearly 40% of children under the age of 5 there are of stunted growth. Despite equality laws, there are huge challenges to women's rights in India, as there are here. However, both of our countries benefit from a huge number of women's groups and feminist movements that work to raise women up and to fight injustices, just like Compassionate Voices does here. More in common than that which divides us. Now, at the end of the day, I am a politician, and it saddens me when people, especially women, tell me they don't do politics. Lasses, women, DDs. In this world, poverty has a female's base. Gender inequalities contribute to women's increased risk of poverty in many countries, including our own. Every right you women that are sat in this room has been hard fought for, and it has been won by political engagement. Freedom from discrimination, rights to healthcare, education, property ownership, equal pay, work opportunities, bodily autonomy, and protection from violence and sexual harassment, to mention just a few. We weren't given those rights. We had to fight for them, and we had to fight for them politically. And as we see so often in countries across the world, these rights can be easily taken away from us if we take our eye off the ball. Look what's happening in America. I strongly believe that women must fight to participate at all levels of political decision making, because when women and girls lead, everybody wins. Because when women are financially empowered, economies grow and businesses benefit. Because when women are equally represented in government, equality thrives. Because when women are free to live their lives without the threat of violence, families flourish. Because when women have a bigger say in peace processes, peace is found sooner and it lasts longer. Because if you give a woman a fish, everybody gets a bite. Lasses, there is a glass ceiling, but we must teach our women and girls that every building has its windows and doors too, and they can squeeze through those gaps instead. The main thing is that when they break through, women must be willing to take other women with them, or at least show them the way. So we live in times of great political upheaval, and it sometimes seems that our communities are set one against the other. But we can't let hatred and division win, because if it does, we will all suffer. We must keep in mind extraordinary, ordinary women like Evelyn, Daphne, Sharon, Esther, Nicole, Sandra, Tina, and all of you wonderful women here today who prove that whatever age, colour, culture, ethnicity, sexuality, gender orientation, we are all part of the female family. We are all lionesses. And let's make sure that everybody hears that too. Thank you.